Hi friends, welcome back to the second part of my travel in Italy. This is the last part of my epic 2-week adventure through Europe. We woke up early this morning as we're making our way to Florence from Venice. Since it takes 2 hours to get there, we decided to take a little nap and recharge. We've arrived in Florence. Unfortunately, we didn't get the warmest welcome as the moment we stepped outside, the rain started to pour heavily. After dropping our luggage at our accommodation, we decided to stop by Mercato Centrale Firenze market for lunch and to escape the rain. The market is split into 2 levels, with the ground level selling fresh produce, meats, condiments, and other Italian delicacies. You can find a few stores selling traditional Italian food here. However, most food stores are actually located on the upper level. Before we head up, we stop by this pasta shop that sells a range of different freshly made pasta. We ordered a ricotta ravioli pasta in pesto sauce. This only costs €6 and you get around 7 to 8 pieces. Each piece is fully stuffed with ricotta. I love the texture and the sauce, but overall it was a little bit salty and heavy for me. After our appetizer, we headed upstairs and to the main attraction of the market. This floor is essentially a food hall that features an endless selection of freshly prepared Italian food like pizza, pasta, seafood, and even gelato. As I was craving for some pizza, we were captivated by this store that had rows of pizza and sandwiches on display. I was sold when I saw them taking out freshly baked focaccia from the oven. So we decided to pick up a sandwich and 1 slice of focaccia. Let's try out the focaccia first. Here they are definitely very generous with their portions and fillings. I had more toppings than bread. This was absolutely delicious. The ingredients were so fresh and I loved the taste of basil on this as well. Overall, I would rate this 9 out of 10. Time to try this massive sandwich. I'm already drooling just by looking at it. Just as I expected, it was so tasty. Italian sandwiches are definitely on another level. The portion was so big and we had a hard time finishing it all. Feeling like something sweet, we stopped by this gelato shop in the food hall. This was very satisfying. After lunch, we went to the Bialetti store as we wanted to pick up some coffee accessories for our home cafe. Bialetti is an iconic Italian brand known for its mocha pot. Recently, they collaborated with Dolce & Gabbana to produce 2 unique designs for their mocha pot. It was so pretty, but it was a little bit out of my budget, so I didn't end up getting it. Here, you can get Florence engraved on your mocha pot, making it a really good souvenir idea to commemorate your time here. After shopping at Bialetti, we visited Ditta Artigianale to see if we could get some coffee cups and of course to try their coffee. I love the look of their coffee cups, so we decided to pick 2 of them to take home. With a cappuccino in hand, we headed back to our accommodation for the night. For the rest of our trip, we had chosen to stay in an Airbnb just outside of the city center in Florence. Little did we know, this wasn't the best decision as public transport in Florence is unreliable and buses don't run late into the night. Nevertheless, we were happy with our choice of accommodation. The Airbnb was very spacious with 2 queen-size beds and a well-equipped kitchen, perfect for when we want to cook at home. All the facilities were nice and clean. The only downside was the noises as the bedroom was right next to the main road. After we settled and rested a bit, we prepared a small dinner with the food we picked up from the supermarket earlier. Since we were pretty full, we got only a few things to make a simple salad and charcuterie board. And you can't end the night in Italy without some tiramisu. Good morning from Florence. This is our second day here and the weather looks more promising today. Unfortunately, for most of our trip in Europe, it was raining. Hopefully the sun stays up for the whole day. We have quite a few places to hit up today, but before that, let's grab some coffee to wake up. Our first stop is Ditta Artigianale Riva d'Arno, a different branch from the famous coffee shop. Compared to yesterday's branch, this cafe is very modern and vibrant. There aren't a lot of spaces to sit inside, but since it's early, we got a window seat. We also got a small pastry to pair with our coffee. Compared to the coffee, the pastry was very average. After our morning coffee, we head to our first landmark of the day, just a few minutes away from the cafe. Ponte Vecchio. This is a medieval stone bridge dating back to the 14th century and is famous for its iconic rows of shops built along the sides. These stores primarily sell jewelry, watches, art, and souvenirs. When you visit the bridge, don't forget to stop on the side of the bridge as you get a stunning view of the Arno River. Near the bridge lies Signum, a souvenir shop I wanted to visit to buy some postcards. This boutique store sells a lot of unique handcrafted stationery, journal, and art supplies. I ended up buying this postcard. As we walk towards our next stop, the Basilica of Santa Croce, we pass by the Uffizi galleries, a popular Florentine museum housing Michelangelo's statue of David. Unfortunately, tickets goes very quickly, so we weren't able to get the tickets to go inside. The Basilica of Santa Croce was very impressive in person, and I love its symmetrical marbled facade and the details in the decoration. Feeling a bit peckish, we stopped by an Australian bakery and brunch spot alongside the river. We ordered a small bowl of polenta chips. It was fried to perfection. Super crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. After a short break, we made our way to Piazza della Signoria, one of Florence's most iconic and historical squares that includes landmarks such as Ponte Vecchio, Florence town hall with a fortress-like design and a tall clock tower, as well as a replica of Michelangelo's statue of David. Since we're near the Gucci Garden, a fashion museum celebrating the history of the iconic Gucci brand, we were eager to visit. After all, Gucci was founded right here in Florence in 1921 by Guccio Gucci. Each room is thematically designed, telling the stories of Gucci's journey and inspiration. This has to be one of my favorite spaces in the museum. The most interesting has to be the top floor, that displays Gucci's evolution in their ready-to-wear collection. It's interesting to see how diverse and different each creative director was in their collections. There are quite a few spots around the museum that were perfect for photos, like this mirror display room with a collection of Gucci bags. It was quite a fun experience, but for €8, I personally didn't think it was that worth since the museum was quite small. It's a nice place to visit if you have some spare time in the city, but not a must visit. After the museum, we head to Croce Palace courtyard for a quick photo. Croce Palace is a Renaissance palace built in the late 15th century, known for its beautiful and grand architecture. We then head to the Piazza del Duomo, home to several of Florence's most important landmarks. Located in this square is the Baptistry of St. John, one of the oldest buildings in Florence. Close by is the iconic Santa Maria del Fiore, the Florence cathedral with a massive red tiled dome. The design and scale is jaw-dropping. Is the Giotto's Bell Tower, a 278-foot tall Gothic bell tower which visitors can also climb. Due to the importance of these landmarks in the center of Florence, no matter when you visit, it's always crowded here. It's finally time for lunch and we headed to Trattoria Zaza as we wanted to try Florentine steak. Trattoria Zaza is a popular restaurant in Florence famous for their traditional Tuscan cuisines. We were lucky enough to get a seat without lining up. The restaurant has a rustic interior and lots of quirky decorations all around. There were so many choices on the menu, so we took some time before deciding what we wanted to eat. In the end, we ordered sauteed spinach, Florentine T-bone steak, and wild boar pappardelle. Everything looked and smelled so good. For the price, they give you a generous portion. In particular, the steak was way bigger than we anticipated, but hey, we weren't complaining. When paired with the sauce, it was so delicious. This has to be hands down one of the best steak I had in recent years. The steak was thick but still tender and juicy, and it had a really deep umami taste. Time to try the wild boar pasta. This is my first time trying it, and I got to say it was way beyond delicious. Even when I'm editing this now, I'm still dreaming about that meal we had. After our hearty lunch, we went to Medici Riccardi Palace, one of Florence's most significant Renaissance palace that shows the patriarch of the powerful Medici family. The palace was the first Renaissance-style private residence and served as the Medici's family home until the late 16th century. After the Medici, the palace was expanded by the Riccardi family. I can't imagine living here. This palace is so huge. It would take way too much effort to get out of the house. Anyways, as we walk up these enormous stairs, the first thing we stumbled across was the Chamber of Magi. Which had the most incredible 15th century Florentine arts. As we head into the main hall, we were greeted by the intricate ceiling decorations and tapestry hung around the room. We even got to see what their bedroom looked like. The room was originally used as a reception hall for the Riccardi family, but later turned into a gallery that was designed to impress visitors with the family's wealth and artistic patronage. Before we head back to our accommodation, we wanted to buy some olive oil to bring home. So after a quick search online, we found this place that sold high-quality olive oil and balsamic vinegar. The staff was super nice and friendly and let us taste the different types of olive oil on offer. In the end, we went with a milder flavor that is perfect for salads or to dip in bread. As the sun is starting to set, we head back to our accommodation for an early night rest. We woke up nice and early today as we planned to head out for a day trip to Pisa. Even though it's not even 9 AM, the main train station is crowded with people. There are kiosk machines at the station where you can purchase tickets, but I highly recommend you to book in advance to secure your seats and time slot. Before we jumped on the train, we wanted to grab some breakfast, all'antico finario, one of the most famous sandwich shops in Florence that went viral on social media. We planned to visit all'antico at the original store, but since we saw there was one at the station that had a short line, we couldn't resist grabbing one to try. There were so many options and choices to choose from. I honestly felt slightly overwhelmed. The train ride to Pisa took only 50 minutes, making it a perfect destination for a day trip. After we sat down, I was ready to dig into this world-class sandwich. Just by the look of it, you can tell why this is a legendary sandwich shop. The bread is crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. The sandwich was packed with lots of fresh ingredients. It was definitely worth the hype and wait for. The only thing I would say is that I wish they could cut the sandwich in half or improve the packaging, as the sauce did tend to leak out. We arrived in Pisa. Luckily, the beautiful weather decided to stick around today. Pisa so far seems to be less crowded than Florence. Today I'm in Pisa in Italy and I'm doing a day trip here from Florence. I have a jam-packed activity today, so I'm very keen to visit all the monuments and try out some of the famous food and cafes here. So stay tuned and see what I get up to today. As we made our way to the main attractions, we stopped by the Galileo Art Cafe as we wanted to grab some coffee. But instead, we ended up getting this coffee cream which we saw in a slushy machine. Coffee cream is a semi-frozen blend of espresso, sugar, and cream. It tastes like gelato, but with a mousse-like texture. It was smooth and rich and hit the spot. On our way to the main landmarks in Pisa, we passed by lots of beautiful architectures and buildings. After a 25-minute walk, we're finally here. I thought that Pisa has less crowds than Florence, but in fact they were all just here where the main landmarks are located. First landmark we saw was the Leaning Tower of Pisa. This was exactly how I imagined it to be, except for the fact that even the base of the tower was also slanted. It's pretty surreal how the building is still standing and operating for visitors to climb to the top of the tower. In order to visit these landmarks, you must get a ticket. We got a ticket pass that covers our visit to most of the landmarks. You can also buy single tickets to any particular landmark of interest. After we purchase our tickets, we head to the Baptistry of St. John, which is one of the oldest and most iconic buildings in Pisa. From the upper level, you can see the beautiful view of Pisa. Next, we went to the Campo Santo, a historical cemetery renowned for its medieval frescoes and Gothic architecture. Nearby is the Pisa Cathedral, the only landmark with no entry fee. However, you will need to get a free timed entry ticket to enter into the cathedral as they regulate the numbers of visitors inside. The cathedral was very majestic with its beautiful marble facade and painting displayed all around. There are a few audio guide stations around the cathedral which provide detailed explanation and historical context about the cathedral's art, architecture, and religious significance. After all that exploring, we decided to take a break first and have lunch. Cafalere's Specialty Coffee is a popular specialty coffee shop in Pisa. Since they also serve food here, we decided to eat here first before trying their coffee. We ordered carbonara and mixed vegetable to share. Honestly, the food was disappointing. The pasta was a bit too salty for me, and what made our experience worse was the rude customer service we received. We hadn't gotten any bad customer service so far, but the waitress was so rude to us the whole time we were dining there. So we didn't even end up trying out their coffee that we originally came here for, as we were rushed out as soon as we finished our meal. After that unfortunate experience, we continued to explore Pisa's landmarks. The Signoria Museum is a museum that houses the preliminary sketches used for the frescoes in the Camposanto Monumental. These drawings shows the rough behind-the-scenes planning of the medieval and Renaissance fresco painters. all the landmarks I visited in Pisa, Muro di Pisa was by far my favorite, and in my opinion the most worthwhile. This is our final destination at Pisa today before heading back to Florence. We're doing this walk called the Muro Walk. It walks around 8 kilometers around the outside of all the big monuments here in Pisa. And after that, we are going to get some ice cream to finish off our day trip here. From here, you get an amazing panoramic view of Pisa and its landmarks. It's more peaceful and less crowded, and overall a really nice scenic walk. There are a few different exits if you don't want to complete the whole journey, which proved to be helpful as we had to leave for our train back to Florence. Before that, of course, we had to grab some gelato for the road. We ordered the store's signature flavor, hazelnut. It was so delicious and creamy. Overall, it's been a really good and sunny day in Pisa. But it's time to make our way back to Florence for the night. Today is our last day in Florence, and it's also the last day of this trip. Since we've seen most of the landmarks in Florence, we plan to have a relaxed and chill day. First stop is Piazzale Michelangelo, a large square in Florence located on a hilltop providing one of the best unobstructed views of Florence. Here you can find a bronze replica of Michelangelo's David. It's looking a bit gloomy again today. It's a really nice place to take photos and enjoy the stunning landscape of Florence without the huge crowd. It was a pleasant stroll down the hill from the square as we made our way to the next destination. Fluid Specialty Coffee is a popular coffee shop in town due to its high-quality coffee. The cafe wasn't too big, but they had plenty of seatings like these pop-up tables. Here they offer pour-overs, espresso, and cold brews. I love their graphic design displays. Of cappuccino and pistachio croissant to try. The coffee came with a little card explaining the coffee beans used for the brew. I haven't had a bad croissant so far on this trip, and this pistachio croissant was no exception. The croissant was super flaky on the outside and soft on the inside. The coffee was super tasty and smooth, and I liked the hint of sweetness chocolatey aftertaste. Continuing our food adventure, we went to another famous and popular sandwich shop in Florence, I Girone De Ghiotti. The inside of the store was small but filled with fresh ingredients, and luckily we got a seat in the upstairs area. We ordered a small size of the number 1 sandwich and a regular size number 15. Both sandwiches were delicious, but I like al dente's better because they had more fillings and I thought the bread on these were way too crunchy. If you only had one chance to try a Florentine sandwich, I would still recommend al dente. To be honest, by now, we were running out of things to do in Florence, but we stumbled upon the Leonardo da Vinci Museum and thought it would be interesting. The entire museum is dedicated to the life and the wacky interventions of Renaissance polymath Leonardo da Vinci, with replicas of his designs. I actually found it really interesting seeing all the things that he invented, including his infamous flying machine and glider. There were also many things that I didn't know he invented, like this polar-type tank and earlier versions of gear train. There was also an upstairs section dedicated to his role in designing the dome of Santa Maria de Flore Cathedral and his study of music. It would be a really fun and educational activity to do with your kids. After the museum, we walked the streets of Florence for a bit longer and headed to the Vinci shop. I've never tried Vinci before this, and this store has so many enticing displays, so I picked up some chocolate truffles and gelato to try. How can you resist this chocolate waterfall display? We ordered the tiramisu gelato and strawberry sorbet in a cone. And both were so delicious. With an ice cream in hand, we walked over to the lovely plaza in front of the Basilica of Santa Maria Novella and enjoyed the rest of our afternoon. And that brings us to the end of our time in Italy, and the second part of this epic 2-week Europe adventure. I had an amazing time in Paris, Switzerland, and Italy, but sadly it's time to head to the airport and fly back home. If you've enjoyed this travel series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Let's meet again in my next adventure. Bye for now!